Have you ever lost your keys? Then, when looking in the same place 4 or 5 times, while thinking where else they could be, you suddenly find them right in front of you? Have you ever played a game and not noticed an enemy NPC come running at you because you were focused on a gathering quest? Do you go through your inventory and wonder where this new piece of loot came from? Sometimes games can have too much going on at once, and we can miss changes or even things right in front of us. These behaviours are completely normal and can occur many times in a person's day. But what causes us to completely blank out certain things? What makes us ignore the obvious, even when we're looking right at it? First off, let's do a little exercise. Assuming aces are worth 11 points, as quickly as you can double the points of all the cards and add them up. If you got 50 points as the answer, then well done. If you noticed the 4 of hearts was black instead of red, even more impressive. Don't kick yourself if you didn't notice what now seems obvious. This is inattentional or perceived blindness at work. Your brain was focusing so hard on the numbers and the math that it tuned out the less important information, such as suit colours. Arian Mack and Irvin Rock chose the term inattentional blindness in 1992 and used it to title their 1998 book, which discussed this behaviour. Daniel Simons is a psychologist and professor at the University of Illinois, and he researched inattentional and change blindness. This research uncovered how people perceive the world, how our brains divide attention, and that we're all less visually aware of our surroundings than we think we are. Simons, along with Christopher Chabris, built on previous studies by Neisser and Becklin in 1975. This included creating a video that people watched in order to test perception. Have a look and see if you can answer the question at the end. I made my own little version of this video, using gameplay footage from Robonauts on Nintendo Switch. It's a little over a minute long, and all you have to do is tap along to the music and count how many enemies there are in total. Ready? I got somewhere in the ballpark of 36 enemies, but did you see me randomly turn up? I appeared 6 times during the video in different places. Feel free to watch it again without counting or tapping to the beat. I love this test as it can be replicated in different ways and used in different contexts. One clever way it was used was in a British public safety advert that wanted to highlight drivers' awareness of cyclists on the road, or lack thereof. The reason for this blindness is based on something called perceptual load. Think of your brain as a cup and information as water. You can fill the cup with water until it reaches the top. After that, it will spill over and any excess water will be lost. Our brains can only be attentive to a certain amount of things at once, and after it's reached its limit, anything else is lost. This usually occurs when you're focusing or thinking really hard on something, when your brain is in cognitive demand. The higher the perceptual load, the higher the chance of inattentional blindness. One of my favourite authors, Professor Richard Wiseman, wrote a book called Did You Spot the Gorilla?, which is based on inattentional and change blindness. Coming back to it years after I first read it, it still blew my mind. Here's a picture of an incomplete clock face that uses Roman numerals, and we're asked to complete it. What would you put in the blank spaces? If you know numerals, you'll put I for 1, X for 10, and IV for 4, right? What if I told you most watches that use numerals use 4 I's as number 4? I thought that was rubbish too. Then I googled Roman numeral watch faces and there it was. Many watches nowadays do use IV, but it seems older watches traditionally use 4 I's. This is a great example of inattentional blindness. Watches are something many people look at multiple times a day, and yet may never have noticed exactly what they were looking at. Change blindness occurs when there's an alteration in visual stimulus, such as a picture, and a person looking at that picture doesn't notice. This occurs mainly when there's a brief interval between viewing, such as blinking or the picture flashing on a screen. Think of a spot the difference puzzle. There are small differences between each picture, but they aren't obvious at first. It's only when you look closely or make direct comparisons do you see the changes. Distractions can intensify change blindness. If you're in game and stop for a second to focus on the chat, you may not notice the random enemy respawn as your attention was elsewhere. Some video games use these theories as the foundation of their design, creating situations where awareness is challenged in an entertaining way. A genre this has become popular in is puzzle simulators, where a player is given a mundane or repetitive tasks with certain rules to follow. Papers, Please became very popular after its initial release in 2013, with similar games such as Not Tonight releasing in 2018. These both focus on dystopian worlds where a player must check ID cards and documents, then decide whether to allow or deny a character entry. There are high stakes and certain deadlines to meet, creating situations where a player has to weigh up information and make tough choices. In Not Tonight, the player has to take jobs as a bouncer in order to make enough money to pay rent. The rules start off simple. Check if a character is over 18. It even gives you the cutoff date to reference. This seems dull at first, but the next job asks a player to check for out-of-date IDs, on top of date of birth. It then adds looking for fake IDs and serving 2 queues, one with a guest list, while keeping everyone happy while waiting. There are also targets to hit for bonus pay and time limits when the venue's open. This puts a certain amount of pressure on the player to be as quick and efficient as possible in order to make the most money without incident. The player is sometimes offered bribes and has to decide if the risk is worth the reward. This slow introduction of more and more elements for a player to focus on increases the perceptual load and causes small details to slip through. This increases difficulty without a huge learning curve, introducing manageable challenges that don't need a high amount of skill to complete. You just need to balance your perceptual load. Inattentional or change blindness as a game mechanic can put a fun twist on a genre, but it can also help improve real-world skills. A study by scientists at a university in China found that playing an hour of multiplayer online battle arena games, or MOBAs, can help improve skills to focus on relevant information while also blocking out unimportant distractions. This was named visual selective attention. Games such as Pokemon Unite has the player control a Pokemon and try and capture points while fighting the enemy team. There's only a small map to explore with a few NPC enemies, but because the other main characters on both teams are real players, there's more unpredictability involved with moving and attacks. This causes a player to focus not only on their own abilities and attacks, but also what is going on around them and the actions of other players. They have to keep tabs on which points need capturing or defending, where the enemy team is moving, what abilities are on cooldown, how much health they have, leveling up moves and collecting and scoring points. This may seem like a lot of things to pay attention to, but the study showed this exposure to multiple random variables actually helped players improve their ability to be efficiently aware of their surroundings. To take this even further, a review of the Chinese study by Bjorn Hubert Wallander stated that games such as Halo and Call of Duty can improve visual attention and even help with military training. This is because the player is inundated with sensory elements that they have to regulate and process as quickly as possible. The more a person plays games like these, the more used to this sensory overload they become. This may sound too good to be true, games helping improve skills, especially FPS games which are seen as violent and damaging to young minds. But as we explored in a previous video, not all violent games encourage violence. Take a look if you want to see what other real-world skills video games can improve. You might be surprised. So, the next time you're playing a game and completely miss that enemy coming out of nowhere, or blank on what that NPC said because your phone just went off, just remember it's inattentional or change blindness. With a little practice, you may find yourself being able to broaden your perception while zoning out unimportant stimuli, increasing awareness and testing your perceptual load. And the best part? Gaming can help with that.